Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real. When it comes to relationships, it's not always about how much you say, but what you say and how it makes them feel. Sometimes 5 simple words can make a man stop in his tracks, replay your message over and over, and start missing you like crazy. Because it's not the text itself, it's the emotion behind it that drives him wild. The power of emotional triggers in communication is one of the most overlooked aspects of modern relationships, yet it's the very heartbeat of attraction and connection. When you send a message, you're not just using words, you're sending energy, emotion, and intention. People often underestimate how deeply emotions influence the way we read and respond to texts. You can say the same sentence in 100 different ways, but the feeling behind it changes everything. That's why some people can send a short, simple text that leaves a lasting impression, while others send long, emotional paragraphs that barely make a dent. The difference lies in emotional impact, not the number of words, but the emotion carried within them. Every human being is wired to respond to emotional triggers. These are signals that awaken desire, curiosity, fear, or longing within the mind. When it comes to love and communication, emotional triggers play a crucial role. A simple phrase like, "I miss you," can mean 1,000 things, depending on who says it and how it's said. When you understand the emotional rhythm of your partner, when to give affection, when to hold back, when to create a little mystery, you master the art of emotional communication. Men, in particular, are more emotionally reactive than they like to admit. When you send the right words at the right time, you don't just make him think of you, you make him feel you. That's the difference between being remembered and being missed. Texting isn't about flooding someone with attention. It's about sending the right vibration that triggers emotional recognition. You can trigger nostalgia by reminding him of a shared moment, trigger admiration by showing confidence, or even trigger desire by keeping your message short and leaving space for imagination. The human brain is built to seek closure, and when your message creates just enough emotional curiosity, he'll keep thinking about it, trying to fill in the blanks. That's when he starts missing you, not because you're gone, but because his emotions are now tied to your energy. Confidence is the core of every emotional trigger. When you communicate with certainty, calmness, and self-assurance, you speak directly to a person's subconscious. A confident tone triggers respect, while a soft, gentle tone triggers warmth. When a woman learns to balance both strength and softness, she becomes unforgettable. That emotional duality draws a man in like gravity. It's not about playing games or pretending to be someone else. It's about understanding that every word you say carries emotional weight. When you choose those words wisely, you gain emotional influence. In the end, emotional triggers are what keep connections alive. You don't have to chase attention when you can command emotion. The right words can make someone's heart skip, their mind replay, and their soul crave more of your presence. Emotional triggers remind us that love isn't built on constant communication. It's built on meaningful moments that stir something deep within. When you master emotional connection, even silence speaks louder than words. And that's when missing you becomes inevitable. How men respond to attention and space is one of the most fascinating aspects of human behavior in relationships. Many people assume that the more love and attention they give, the more their partner will value them. But with men, it doesn't always work that way. Men are naturally wired to chase, to pursue, to earn what they want. When something or someone is constantly available, it loses its mystery and emotional value. It's not because men don't appreciate affection, they do, but because they are built to desire what feels earned, not what feels guaranteed. The moment they sense that your attention is endless and unconditional, they subconsciously take it for granted. That's why balance is everything. Attention makes him feel wanted, but space makes him realize your worth. When you give a man attention, it reassures him that he matters. It feeds his ego, makes him feel admired and desired, and boosts his confidence in the relationship. But when you overdo it, when you're always the first to text, always the one to check in, always available, no matter how he behaves, you take away the very thing that keeps him emotionally engaged, the challenge. A man feels emotionally alive when he's slightly uncertain, when he feels the need to win your time, your energy, your love. This isn't about manipulation, it's about emotional balance. Too much attention turns affection into expectation, and too much space turns attraction into detachment. The secret is in knowing when to lean in and when to pull back. Space doesn't mean ignoring him or playing hard to get. It means valuing your own presence enough to not give it away too easily. It's about showing that your world doesn't revolve around him, that you have your own life, your own purpose, and your own joy outside the relationship. When a man sees that you're fulfilled, even without his constant validation, he starts craving your energy even more. He starts wondering what's so special about you that you don't need to chase him. That curiosity is what draws him closer. Space creates the room for a man's emotions to breathe, to reflect, and to grow. Without it, he feels overwhelmed, and with too much of it, he feels neglected. But in perfect measure, space makes him fall deeper. When you find that rhythm, you stop chasing and start attracting. The less you seek, the more he values. The quieter you become, the louder your absence feels. This balance between attention and space is what builds emotional tension, the very tension that keeps love alive. A man doesn't miss constant attention, he misses the feeling of earning it. When you give him enough room to realize what you bring into his life, he starts to notice the little things he used to overlook. That's when he starts texting first, calling more, and doing small things to pull your attention back. Because deep down, every man wants to feel like he's chosen by a woman who doesn't need him, but wants him. And that difference is everything. The psychology behind simple, powerful words is what separates ordinary communication from unforgettable connection. Words have energy, and when chosen carefully, they can pierce through the noise of daily life and touch the deepest parts of a person's emotions. In relationships, the right words have the ability to awaken feelings, stir curiosity, and create lasting impressions. Most people think that expressing love or emotion requires grand gestures or long conversations, but in truth, it's often the simplest phrases that carry the strongest impact. A well-timed message like, "I was thinking of you," or "You'll miss me soon," can echo in a man's mind far longer than an entire paragraph of affection. That's because simple words leave space for the imagination, and the imagination is where emotional attachment begins. When you use simple, emotionally charged language, you allow the other person's mind to fill in the blanks with their own thoughts and feelings. The human brain craves meaning, so when you send a short, open-ended message, it forces him to interpret it. He starts wondering what you meant, why you said it, what you're feeling, and that curiosity becomes emotional engagement. It's not manipulation, it's psychological truth. People don't fall for those who talk the most, they fall for those who make them feel the most. And often, what triggers feeling isn't explanation, but suggestion. A few carefully chosen words can awaken memories, ignite longing, or remind him of your presence, even when you're silent. The beauty of simplicity is that it carries confidence. When you send a short, meaningful message, it shows you don't need to over-explain yourself. You're not begging for attention, you're making a statement. That quiet certainty is incredibly attractive because it reflects emotional control. Men, consciously or not, respond to that kind of self-assurance. They feel it in your tone. They sense that you're not chasing them, but you're inviting them to think of you, to miss you. A message like, "Oh, I get it," or "Your loss," can speak volumes, not because of what it says, but because of what it implies. It shows strength, independence, and self-worth. Another reason powerful words work is because they create emotional contrast. If you're usually warm and expressive, and then one day you're brief or reserved, that shift in energy stands out. It catches his attention. He starts questioning what changed, and that questioning keeps his mind on you. The key is in the delivery, timing, tone, and authenticity. You can't fake emotion, and you shouldn't try to. But when you genuinely feel something and express it through calm, precise words, it carries a natural weight that can't be ignored. In the end, it's not about crafting perfect messages. It's about understanding emotional timing and connection. The most powerful words are the ones that reflect who you are, not who you're trying to be. They carry truth, confidence, and restraint, a rare combination that leaves an unforgettable mark. When you master the psychology behind simple, powerful words, you don't need to chase love. Your words will do it for you silently, beautifully, and effortlessly. Building mystery and value in your connection is what keeps a relationship alive, exciting, and emotionally charged. When everything about you is easily accessible, there's nothing left to discover, and discovery is what fuels attraction. The truth is, people don't fall in love with what they fully understand. They fall in love with what they can't quite figure out. Mystery isn't about playing games or pretending to be someone else. It's about keeping a certain part of yourself sacred, something that can't be completely reached or owned by anyone. That's what makes you intriguing. When a man feels like there's more to you than what meets the eye, he stays curious, and curiosity keeps his emotions engaged. The moment he feels like he's figured you out completely, his excitement begins to fade because there's nothing left to explore. Building mystery starts with emotional control. You don't have to share every thought, every feeling, or every detail about your life immediately. Leave space for him to wonder what you're thinking, what you're doing, and how you're feeling. Don't rush to fill every silence with words or explanations. When you're comfortable with silence, it shows confidence. It tells him you're not desperate for validation or attention, and that alone raises your value. Men naturally value what seems rare, what's not easily given, and what they have to work to understand. When you hold back a little, not out of fear, but out of self-respect, you automatically become more desirable. Your mystery becomes your magnet. Value comes from knowing your worth and setting boundaries that reflect it. When you show that your time, attention, and emotions are not given freely to just anyone, you teach others how to treat you. You don't need to chase validation. You become the validation. Every time you choose yourself, instead of begging for someone else's effort, you build your value higher. That energy is powerful. It makes a man see you differently, not as someone to take for granted, but as someone he's lucky to have access to. A woman who knows her worth doesn't have to prove it. It radiates through her tone, her patience, and her presence. Mystery also comes from unpredictability, not inconsistency, but emotional depth. When you express yourself in ways that aren't always expected, you keep him intrigued. Maybe one day you're playful and warm, and another day you're calm and distant. Those shifts, when natural and genuine, make him feel like he's constantly discovering new sides of you. That emotional variety keeps love fresh and alive. It reminds him that you're not someone to be controlled or predicted, but someone to be experienced. In every great love story, mystery and value go hand in hand. The more you value yourself, the more mysterious you naturally become, because self-assured people don't need to explain themselves. They let others come closer at their own pace. Knowing their worth doesn't depend on someone else's approval. When you hold that energy, he doesn't just miss you, he craves understanding you, and that's how mystery turns into lasting attraction. Using confidence and timing in texting is an art that can completely transform the way someone feels about you. Confidence isn't about arrogance or control. It's about knowing your value and communicating in a way that reflects it. When you text someone with calmness, certainty, and poise, it sends a powerful message, not just through your words, but through your energy. The way you respond, the pauses between your messages, and even the tone you use can all create emotional tension that makes a man think about you long after the conversation ends. Most people rush to reply or overthink every message, But true confidence is shown through patience. It's knowing that you don't have to fight for attention because you already deserve it. When you trust your presence enough to not chase a response, that's when you become unforgettable. Timing plays a huge role in emotional impact. Sending a message too soon can make you look anxious or overly eager, while waiting for the right moment can build anticipation and curiosity. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. When you take your time to respond, not out of manipulation, but out of composure, it shows emotional maturity. It makes him wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and why you're not rushing to reply. That pause creates mystery and gives him space to miss you. A well-timed message after a brief silence hits differently. It feels intentional and meaningful. It shows you're not desperate for connection, you're choosing it. That sense of control draws a man in because it shows that your emotions aren't easily swayed. Confidence in texting also comes from not oversharing or over-explaining. Many people think they need to justify their feelings or make sure they're understood perfectly, but confidence is about trusting that your message stands on its own. It's okay to be direct, to be simple, and to let your words breathe. When you say something like, "I understand," or "take your time," it carries quiet strength. It tells him you're emotionally stable, that you're not seeking approval, and that you can handle space without falling apart. That's the kind of energy that commands respect. Men are drawn to women who don't react impulsively, who don't send 10 messages when one is enough, and who know when to end a conversation gracefully. The secret behind great timing and confidence is emotional awareness, knowing when to reach out, when to pull back, and when to say nothing at all. You don't always have to fill the silence or push for answers. Sometimes letting things breathe gives them more power. When you master that rhythm, you start to control the emotional pace of the relationship. He begins to follow your lead without even realizing it. Your calm, confident timing makes him feel that you're grounded, that you're not afraid to lose him, and that you value peace over chaos. That's when he starts to feel your absence deeply, because confidence, when paired with perfect timing, doesn't just attract, it leaves a lasting impression that no amount of words can replace. Making him feel your absence, even through silence, is one of the most powerful emotional skills you can develop. It's not about ignoring him or playing mind games. It's about letting your energy speak louder than your words. When someone truly values you, your silence doesn't go unnoticed. It echoes in their thoughts. It makes them question, reflect, and realize what they had when you were present. Most people underestimate the power of absence, but sometimes stepping back does what constant communication can't. When you stop over-explaining, stop trying to prove your feelings, and simply let your presence fade for a while, that's when a man begins to truly feel what life is like without your voice, your energy, and your warmth. Silence creates emotional space, and in that space, awareness grows. When you're always available, he never gets the chance to miss you because he never experiences your absence. But when you pull back gracefully, not out of anger, but out of calm self-respect, he starts to notice the little things he once took for granted. The morning texts, the late night calls, the way you listened without judgment, all those moments become memories that replay in his mind. That's when silence becomes your strongest message. It tells him, without a single word, that you are not dependent on his attention to feel whole. It shows strength, and that strength is deeply attractive because it's rare. There's also an emotional psychology behind silence. When you stop reacting, you remove the emotional fuel that drives many of his actions. Suddenly, he doesn't get to read your feelings, doesn't get to predict your next move, doesn't get to feel the security of your constant presence. That uncertainty makes him think. It awakens curiosity, even a bit of fear of losing your energy. A man might not realize your worth when you're near, but he'll definitely feel your absence when you pull away. Silence forces him to confront emotions he's been avoiding. It makes him feel the emptiness that your presence used to fill so effortlessly. The beauty of silence is that it's both peaceful and powerful. You don't need to block, argue, or explain. You just quietly shift your focus back to yourself. You pour your energy into your own growth, your happiness, and your peace. And while you're doing that, he's left to deal with the echo of your absence. That's when realization strikes that your presence wasn't ordinary, that your energy was something unique. The moment a man connects silence with peace, he begins to crave it again, and that craving brings him back, not because you demanded it, but because he felt it. So when you choose silence, do it from a place of power, not pain. Don't use it to punish, use it to protect your energy. Let your distance speak the truth your words never could. Because when a woman walks away with grace, her absence doesn't fade, it lingers. It teaches him what her presence truly meant. And that's when he doesn't just miss you, he realizes he never stopped thinking about you.